right, here we go. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. Chase Senior here with you. Hope all of you had a jam-packed and fantastic weekend, and your weeks are off to a phenomenal start. Another loaded show coming your way here on the program. Philadelphia making a couple of roster moves over the weekend. We have a lot of Eagles injury news to get to, and of course, another Eagles training camp reaction as the Birds just got off the practice field at the NovaCare Complex in South Philadelphia. Before we talk about all of that, how about this? Eagles Now watch parties are back. Join myself and producer Chip this upcoming Thursday for the Eagles preseason debut as they take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Kickoff is slated for 7:30 p.m. Eastern at Lincoln Financial Field. And of course, we're going to be doing a watch party for this game and a pregame show, but I want you to make the call. For all of the real ones out there, should we go live an hour before the game or 30 minutes before the game? Either type hour or 30 as far as our pregame show goes. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon, turn on your notifications. Therefore, anytime we go live, anytime I push out a video like this, you will be notified. As for those Eagles roster moves, let's begin there. Philadelphia over the weekend did sign long snapper Christian Johnstone, and they have waived defensive back B.J. Mays. This is all part of an underlying story here for Philadelphia, which could continue to develop over the next couple of days, perhaps over the next couple of weeks. And with the Eagles preseason slate getting underway here on Thursday, something to monitor here. Because remember, Jake Elliott struggled last year as the place kicker for Philadelphia. And I think that's a big reason why the Eagles moved off of Rick Lovato. This offseason, they signed Charlie Hewlett, who was injured last year, to be their new long snapper, but he suffered a neck injury. And so as far as Johnstone goes, spent 5 years at Appalachian State. Then after being a UDFA, after a good college career, he was invited to the Denver Broncos rookie minicamp. With Hewlett dealing with that neck ailment, Philadelphia has signed Johnstone to be their long snapper. He was there yesterday, he was there today, and he was the long snapper for Philadelphia on kicks and on punts. Mays, as far as him, a cornerback, he was a UDFA signing out of Texas A&M. He played a little bit inside and outside while in college, but at the NFL level, thought he was more of that slot nickel DB. But with the emergence of Mac McWilliams, with Cooper DeJean playing there, I think Philadelphia's in a pretty good spot as far as that nickel corner role goes, even though they did lose Avonte Maddox, a valuable player for this team this offseason. He signed with the Detroit Lions. I will say this, though, and why I said that we're going to have to continue to monitor this over the next couple of days, perhaps over the next few weeks. Keeping two long snappers on the 90-man roster is very rare. It's not a valuable position, whereas wide receivers, DBs, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, corners, really any other position, it is important to be able to open up roster spots for those players to see who could help you at a more critical spot. So we will see if there's an additional roster move there. As far as some Eagles injury news, let's get you caught up on that front. These players did not participate in practice today. Zack Baun still out with that back contusion. A.J. Brown not practicing again due to a hamstring injury. The same can be said for Lewis Cine, who's been really getting run as a third-string safety. And then Montrell Johnson, UDFA running back out of Florida. He, too, missing practice today due to a hamstring injury. These following players also did not participate. Trevor Keegan back. Terrace Marshall knee. He's missed the last few practice sessions. Him and Elijah Cooks really in the running to try to make this roster at wide receiver 4 and or wide receiver 5. And then Byron Young, defensive tackle, he was a new addition to the Eagles injury report. He did not practice due to a groin injury. These players limited. Charlie Hewlett, the aforementioned long snapper, dealing with that neck. Mac McWilliams, quad, good news on that front. Andrew Makuba back at practice over the weekend. So a couple of consecutive practices for the rookie second-round pick out of Texas coming off that shoulder injury. Nolan Smith returns after that concussion. And then another positive on the Eagles injury slate. Ben Van Sumeren, the fullback for Philadelphia, no longer a linebacker, although he will participate as far as this special teams unit as well. He, too, back at practice after dealing with an ankle injury that caused him to miss a few practices. He was trying to be a lead blocker going up against Jahad Campbell, and the rookie first-round pick out of Alabama laid the boom. As far as notable developments on the Eagles injury front, right? Zack Baun. This is now 5 straight missed practices due to a back contusion. He did run on to the practice field today at the NovaCare complex, and so I don't think this injury is serious to a point where he can't do anything. I'm not sure if there was a regular season game, if he'd be able to participate or not, but the fact that with a back contusion, he was jogging onto the practice field, I would say that's a pretty good sign. And then with A.J. Brown, I know last training camp he was dealing with hamstring issues. I believe the training camp prior, he was dealing with some hamstring issues. This is also an injury that kind of bothered him during the regular season last year. I would say there's some concern there. Previous history, but also soft tissue stuff for one of the top wide receivers in the game. The Eagles' win-loss record with A.J. Brown compared to without him, and the offensive production, it is pretty severe. He has been so valuable to this team since that draft night trade in 2022. Mike Garafolo, NFL insider for NFL Network, did say this, though, and I think this is something good that you can take away from Brown missing the last few practices. He said, "I do not sense a 5-alarm fire at all on this one. He stood and watched practice. This is something that they're going to want to keep a close eye on and make sure it is not something he re-aggravates." So if we see A.J. Brown sit out a couple of practices, no big deal for the defending champions. I don't think that we're going to see A.J. for the rest of this week. Maybe he targets a return date at some point this weekend. Up until this point, he had been having a dominant training camp. And the Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown connection has continued to be alive and well. A.J. also saying the other day that he felt as though when he was drafted, he had a chance to be an elite wide receiver in the National Football League. He feels as though he's as close as he's ever been to being the top wide receiver in the National Football League, and he's been playing like it since he came to Philadelphia. He's been an All-Pro in each of his 3 seasons in the Midnight Green. A good sign over the weekend, in case you missed it. Second-round pick Andrew Makuba did return from that shoulder injury. 2 consecutive practices for him. He did say that being out was beneficial because getting a different perspective, a different vantage point of watching practice allowed the game to slow down. He was able to learn the defense and learn some of the nuances that Vic Fangio wants him to learn as a rookie. That safety competition continues to be a good one between Andrew Makuba and really Sidney Brown. Sidney Brown, more of that physical safety, downhill guy, and a thumper. Makuba has positional versatility, a little bit smaller, but really good ball skills. And this juncture right now, I'm really not sure who starts week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys. Is it going to be Makuba? Is it going to be Sidney Brown? I know there was a photo that went viral over the weekend of Justin Simmons wearing an Eagles hoodie. Keep in mind, it was a Boston College hoodie. He played his ball at Boston College, BC, and their mascot is the Eagles. All right, as far as my training camp reaction from what transpired today at the NovaCare complex, let's get caught up from things that transpired over the weekend in addition to today. And we had been documenting this on the show, right? There were multiple consecutive training camp practices where Vic Fangio's unit had the best of Kevin Patullo's unit. And so it was the defense getting training camp wins over the offense. But then on Friday, as the offense badly needed a spark, it was the Offensive Player of the Year from the 2024 campaign. One of the most unique, one-of-one dynamic weapons in football, Saquon Barkley, who was able to get this offense to notch a win. He touched the ball 14 times during that Friday practice. He looks fresh. He looks springy. He looks spry. That's great, considering he led the NFL in touches last year. Saquon had 2 touchdowns. He looked awesome. It lifted the spirits and the confidence of that offensive unit. It got his offensive teammates fired up, and it got this Eagles offense a badly needed win in practice going up against that number 1 defense from last year. And I'll add this, right? During training camp practices where there is limited contact, there is no longer tackling to the ground, especially for Philadelphia. It was not the case during the Andy Reid regime in the early 2000s. It is hard for running backs to shine because there's not that much contact. So for Saquon to do that, very impressive. As for Jalen Carter, he spoke this weekend on being a leader. Keep in mind, all of the players that the Eagles defense lost, notably Brandon Graham, is going to go down as an Eagles Hall of Famer. Darius Slay, one of the top corners in the game for a long time. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, one of the heartbeats of that Eagles defense. And so you have to replace more than 4,000 snaps lost from last year's team that dominated Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in the Super Bowl. And with that, organically, younger players have to step up as far as leadership goes. Jalen Carter's ready to take the reins, man. He said, I'm trying to bring more energy. Our group is young, literally. The whole defense, we're young. We've got to feed off each other. I did it 2 years ago, but it was more quiet. 2 years ago, I was a rookie. You don't want to hear too much from a rookie. If you're playing good, you're good. But they told me I was going to have to speak up a good amount. The players, coaches, everybody. It's that time. I don't have to yell and have veins coming out of my face being that rah-rah guy, but I'm going to say something to get us to have energy. This is the maturity that you love to see from Jalen Carter. And when he was drafted by the Eagles in 2023, the Chicago Bears had the number 1 overall pick. If Jalen Carter didn't have that legal situation, I think he could have been in the running for that top overall selection a couple of years ago, right? But he slid because of that legal situation. If he wasn't the top pick, probably a top 5 selection. He fell due to what happened off the field at Georgia, but the Eagles were so equipped to take him on with some of the concerns and question marks around him because of the organizational stability and the structure that Philadelphia has in place. Jeffrey Lurie, the owner, Howie Roseman, the GM, and the culture that Nick Sirianni's been able to build with all of the leaders in place. The Eagles had that foundation to take on Jalen Carter. And I think that's a big reason why he's been able to flourish with Philadelphia. And he's been able to be all about ball. He's been able to impress his coaches and his teammates. And now he feels comfortable stepping into that leadership role. He has the opportunity to be one of the best Eagle defenders of all time. Perhaps one of the best defensive tackles in the history of football. And so for him to take these steps as far as leadership goes and as maturity goes, I think that's awesome. Now, coming up next here on the program, practice reaction. It got juicy and competitive toward the end of this practice session today at Eagles training camp, so you don't want to miss that breakdown. You also don't want to miss this deal thanks to our fine friends at Fanatics. This Eagles cutoff hoodie was $55. It is now on sale for just $33. All you have to do, use that link down below, chatsports.com/Eagles cutoff. You use that link, it'll take it to Fanatics, and then you're able to get that deal to your advantage, and you can look fresh while repping the birds all year round. All right, training camp reaction, roster battle updates. Let's hop in. Vic Fangio saying this morning that the competition between Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson for that outside corner role opposite of Quinyon Mitchell is very close, both having good training camps. Fangio also said, we're a little bit guilty of putting too much on rookie Jahad Campbell's plate, but we're running out of practices to get him acclimated, to get him ready. I think it's impressive that Campbell has been able to take all the information in stride, digest it, and use it to his advantage to make play after play after play, being one of the stars of Eagles training camp so far. Whether he's a starter or a reserve for week 1 against Dallas, I'm not sure. But I'm telling you right now, I think he has a game day role and a pivotal role for this Eagles defense. Vic Fangio also added that Josh Uche, who the Eagles signed for pennies, has had a really good camp. He is the leader for the number 3 edge rusher spot ahead of Azeez Ojulari and, of course, behind the starters in Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt. Fangio said that Cooper DeJean can be a good safety, and he has really good instincts and smarts at that position. And he talked about how there was a route last year that this Eagles defense really struggled to pick up all year long. Well, that route presented itself against this Eagles defense last week when DeJean was playing safety, and he picked it up. He is an incredibly smart football player, and that's why he can have an impact at slot corner, nickel, safety, and at outside corner. Cooper DeJean, ladies and gentlemen, really special player. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Smile Mondin, the starting linebackers today with Zack Baun out. Jahad Campbell also not running with the ones as far as getting the start there. So it was Trotter and Smile Mondon, who the Eagles selected in the middle rounds out of Georgia. Quinyon Mitchell had another interception in camp, this time of Tanner McKee. He has really been working on his ball skills all throughout training camp, and that's resulted in him having a couple of interceptions so far. Remember last year as a rookie during the regular season, he struggled to pick passes off. He had his hands on the rock. He had his hands on the pigskin on a few occasions, but he couldn't bring it down. Darius Slay said that's something that comes with time. And look out for Quinyon Mitchell to have more picks and have a big rise in picks in year 2 as compared to last year. Moro Ajomo continues to have an amazing camp. Landon Dickerson saying yesterday that he's awkward as a player in a good way because of how he's built, how he moves, and how he is an incredibly smart football player. He had his daily sack today, and he continues to have sacks seemingly every single practice. A stud to replace Milton Williams. Elijah Cooks at wide receiver, almost seemingly every day, is making great plays and great catches at the wide receiver position. Anaya Smith, Johnny Wilson, they better start making plays. Otherwise, they're going to have their jobs taken by Elijah Cooks. Darius Cooper, the UDFA out of Tarleton State, having a really good camp. He is a prime practice squad candidate. He's had a couple of really nice grabs. He, too, a good developmental player for this Eagles organization. And hopefully, if he doesn't make the 53, he clears through waivers and the Eagles can sign him to the practice squad because he has that build, the size and the speed of an A.J. Brown. Just needs to refine his skill set because he's a little bit raw playing at the FCS level. Dorian Thompson-Robinson stringing good practice together after good practice. He had a 50-yard touchdown to Giles Jackson, the UDFA out of Washington, who's a speedster. Small, but he can certainly run. Eli Ricks, is he a dark horse to get more snaps at outside corner on the other side of the field from Quinyon Mitchell? He had a nice pass breakup today. And then this is where things got competitive and things got juicy. The offense and defense were tied 3-3 in series wins. And so Nick Sirianni, he loves to breed competition and intensity. The Eagles went through some one-on-ones to decide who won practice. Hurts to Devontae Smith, another clutch play from the ultimate clutch quarterback in Jalen Hurts. He hit Devontae Smith for a first down to give the Eagles offense a much-needed win. And now it's the Eagles offense stacking a couple of good training camp practices together, which you love to see. Defense, offense, iron sharpening iron. Both of these units are very talented. Both of these units have the potential to be some of the top units in all of football, and they're going back and forth in these training camp practices, breeding competition, and it continues to go back and forth, riding the seesaw a little bit. That's what brings about intensity. That's what makes you a better football team, especially when your roster is this loaded. And, of course, we got to go back to Elliott Shore-Parks' grades for Jalen Hurts. Training camp day 9, Hurts getting an A grade because of the clutch play, making a couple of really nice throws downfield. He was really good in situational football. He completed 16 of 19 passes. No touchdowns, no picks, but it was the big throws that heavily weighted the grade, an A from ESP. That's what you love to see after Hurts last week. And this offense struggled on a couple of occasions. If you enjoyed today's show, give me a real one. Philadelphia Eagles now. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.